You're watching Barnstable in Focus with the town manager, Mark Ells. I'm your host today, Sarah Beal Fletcher. And Mark, thank you so much for joining us in the studio again.
Thanks for having me back.
Glad that this is working out. The role of the town manager, let's kind of start there. The last episode we talked about your history with the town and the work that you do, but we didn't dive really into exactly what the role of the town manager is. You're the chief administrative officer for the town of Barnstable. You work in response to the town council. You work for them. So can you kind of describe what that's like?
Well, what is it like?
How does that work, I should say?
Well, certainly we have change in town council, and on occasion we have change in town manager. Yep. The town manager plays that chief administrative role, so we're like the executive branch of local government, and our town council is like the legislative branch. And you can go into the charter and look into the details, but basically a lot of the day-to-day decision making falls with the staff under the town manager. So the town manager runs the town. They perform all duties, whether it's hiring people, managing assets, developing programs and services, responding to legal related issues, managing all of the departments, and I said this last time, but except for schools, airport, and the town clerk. So, again, that's why they call it the chief administrative officer. If you were private sector, you'd be the CEO, the chief executive officer. Same thing. Sign all the contracts, negotiate all the collective bargaining agreements on behalf of the town.
Yeah. So it's a lot.
We are a big community that tries to maintain its very unique village-centric character and qualities of that. And so, there's a lot going on. Until I stepped into these shoes, and I've been here a long time, I always thought I knew everything that was going on. Now I know more. Yeah. Don't know it all, but I know more. Yes. And we are very much in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, one of the larger, more complex communities who the Commonwealth and beyond, quite honestly, look to for what we're doing and how we're doing it, in many cases as a model for the rest of the state, certainly.
I think when people think of Barnstable and the Cape as a whole, they think of these small, quaint fishing villages, communities, and Barnstable, while we hold on to that with our 7 villages, we do have a city form of government because we are such a large population. I think our population is just around 43,000 people, year-round residents, and that triples, quadruples in the summertime. So large community. In the last episode, you talked about, we have 2 shorelines. We live on top of the water that we drink. We are the epicenter of, a lot of things that are happening in the southeastern part of Massachusetts. So there's a lot involved with that. And I know that you are busy day in, day out. Can you kind of talk a little bit about what maybe a normal day would be like for you? What kind of things that you're doing in a day, so people kind of have an understanding of what it is the town manager does and how you communicate with the public and go out and meet people where they are.
Well, that's 24/7 communicating with the public, and I think the ability to have technology help us with that has allowed us to improve our ability to communicate. When we look at who we are from our purpose, our town council sets our mission and our purpose for us. And really, we're very much focused on providing municipal service to maintain that unique character and quality of life that we have here. And we do it with sound financial planning, good communication, and by engaging our citizens. And so that is, when we walk into work every day, what each of our purpose is. We all get to play a little bit different role in doing that. But though I might be the manager at the top, every single person role is critical to making it happen. And so each of my days are very different. And literally I break my week into 7 days. And being a manager in any sector now, there's no 9 to 5. It's 24/7. Certainly with Public Works. Certainly in this role, when I look at our police chief or our school superintendent. When I look at managers in general, when you get to the upper middle and above, it's 24/7. So people just have to embrace that or don't do it.
Yeah.
So same here. So what does my day look like? Well, it is structured. I mean, certainly I try to segment it up based on what's occurring. Do we have major hearings? Even backing up further from that, do we have major milestones on an annual schedule that we need to make sure we are delivering a product at that point that meets the expectation and the needs of our community, whether it be a budget, whether it's a plan that we might need, whether it's compliance with a deadline or a change, a regulatory change perhaps. That doesn't stop. And you don't get to say, oh, well, I didn't do it. You have to produce. Yeah. And so we organize ourselves in that way. Our charter lays out a lot of the things that we have to do, much of it related to the budget, some of it related to authority. Those have to happen. If we don't, we're out of compliance. That's our guiding, kind of like what the Constitution does for the federal government and the state government, our charter does for us at the municipal level. So then when we get down to day, they typically start with meetings, starts early. When you're in this role, you're hearing from your police chief or your public works or even the superintendent
all the time,
24 hours a day. And you're responding. Sometimes it's, okay, thanks for telling me, and sometimes it's go into the office and or from your phone remotely, deploy or allocate or make a decision. So. But when we get into the weekly structure, town hall, the operating hours of town hall, we need to make sure that everything's occurring the way that we need it to occur. Certainly, COVID was an example of departing from that in a very, very challenging way for a manager. A lot of communities just closed their doors and waited and then reacted. We never did that. We never closed our doors. We may have physically not opened town hall, but we were open for service. Right. We had over 200 people go remote within 3 weeks. They were all functioning. And in fact, in many areas, though people were not really comfortable with contactless service, we produced more. Mm-hmm. And so it was really interesting, as a manager to, not a town manager, but just my other life I told you about was I teach management and teach business for 34 years. So it was really interesting to look at how that evolved and how the customer responded to it. So, but we try to structure ourselves, and I try to go through all my emails actually before I get into work. Luckily, you do have remote. Mm-hmm. I get 400 or 500 emails a day.
I can't even imagine that.
So everything from there's a dog barking across the street to the governor notifying us of a funding change. So it's everything. Yeah. Most of them I can refer off to you perhaps to help me respond to, or DPW in a work order system, or school superintendent, or get back to a counselor if they ask. We do have in place many tracking systems so that when individuals come in with concern, you can imagine there's a high volume, I'm only one point of contact, that we can track them and we can respond to them and categorize them, so emergency versus something that falls into our authority, something that doesn't. Because we just don't ignore the ones that don't. We try to help and refer them off to wherever they need to go. So that's all part of my early day and then late day. And then my middle day is typically filled with meetings relevant to budget and programs and services and working with town council. Wednesdays for the first half of the day are pretty much focused on meeting with the leadership of the council. I've done that for my 10 years as town manager. It wasn't always Wednesday, sometimes it was a Monday, but wherever we would like it, we meet, we talk about what's going on. I try never to surprise certainly leadership of the town council with something we've done, meeting the administrative side. And then we have agenda meetings, and then those can roll over into other discussions. So pretty much Wednesday mornings are booked. Leading into Thursday evening council, certainly there is a lot of activity to make sure that everything is organized in a way that that's a productive meeting for them and for us. And then in between, budget can take up a big segment, employee relations can, communications can, interface with local, regional, state. We don't interact with the feds that much. Right now we're watching what's going on because there's a lot of change going on, but not as direct as we do with the state, for example, which is pretty much daily with some agency we're interacting. So that kind of fills up your schedule, and you've also got to keep in mind deadlines, so that whatever you got to do before to prep for a deadline or delivery date of something, that you're meeting that. And do it in a way that, as much as you can, all that need to be involved, all the stakeholders are involved. So, yeah, it's a lot going on.
It is a lot going on.
Yeah.
And I know that people like to say that we're coming into budget season, but I know here in Barnstable, it's always budget season.
It never ends. It's just a
never
different point in
Different
budget.
point in the budget, so. So that's coming up soon. We're going to have CIP and the general fund budget and all of that. So there's going to be a lot more for us to talk about on Barnstable in Focus. But is there anything that maybe you wanted to chat about today that I didn't ask you?
No, I think balance, you had said that at one point, but I think it's all about being able to balance that quality of life with all the other things that we need to achieve, whether it's protection of our environment, whether it's economic growth, whether it's housing, just education, public safety, trying to come up with and playing that regional role. Think about it when I say complex. How many communities are international destinations? I grew up in a wonderful town north of Boston. Nobody visited us. It was a great town, great place, still a big, relatively large, but it's not like here. People from all over the world. Plus, so we're living here. Then we have second homeowners, and then we have visitors here, and the visitors are from everywhere, and with an expectation. And is the expectation of our year-round resident, our second or additional home seasonal resident, our visitor the same? No,
not
of course
at all.
not.
Yeah.
So it's a constant effort to balance it all because of the significant role we play for our Commonwealth and beyond, quite honestly. So, that's why I said earlier, we're complex.
Yeah.
And fortunately for us, we have amazing staff. We really do. And our directors are second to none. And that's the reason why we're able to keep balance.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Mark, thank you so much for joining us again
Thanks for having me.
on Barnstable in Focus. If you have any questions or concerns or anything you'd like us to cover on the show, please feel free to reach out to us. You can send us an email at town.barnstable.ma.us. Thank you.